This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com, which has links to my social media, my newly returned columns at the Colorado Springs Independent. I think I'm going to change that up because they're doing it a little differently, but I am back in the Independent and in print. Also, my photography website, and also you can sign up for my newsletter and also send me suggestions, tips, questions, comments, brickbats, whatever you want to say or anything like that. And all that you can do at hikingbob.com. And also you can support this podcast at Patreon, patreon.com/hikingbob, and help support the podcast. And a big thank you to all the Patreon subscribers who have stayed with me for quite a while now, and also for sticking with us after we made the big change, to going just to twice a month, which kind of brings me to why we're here today. Because today I'm here with Wild Westendorf after a long time not being on the podcast. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, everyone. It feels great to be back.
And what we're doing is we're doing this twice a month, not every 2 weeks, but July is a weird month. It's got 5 Wednesdays, and we come out on Wednesdays. And so the last podcast was 2 weeks ago. I didn't really want to go 3 weeks without a podcast. Mm-hmm. And I already have one in the can for the beginning of August, and that's an interview with a book author I think people are really going to love. So I thought, what a good opportunity to have Kevin back in here and kind of catch up and do a bonus episode. So this is the bonus episode. It's kind of like watching a TV series and getting the bonus episode or something like that.
Yep.
So Kevin's here. So Kevin, we haven't talked to you in a while. What have you been up to?
Not a whole lot, but I'm still on the job search, but things are going well. I can't really complain, and but yeah, I don't have any major news to drop. So
okay, so you've been catching up on your hiking. You had a medical issue, and we've talked about that on here.
Yeah,
and the long story short is they have no idea what happened.
Correct.
That's pretty much it. And you did talk about there was a tumor, but I guess that turned out to be nothing.
They're leaning towards it not being a tumor.
Oh, okay.
But I am seeing another specialist in October, so okay. It's more of the waiting game.
So, but you're not. And I know you were a little uncomfortable going hiking by yourself, but apparently that your doctors and you've decided that it's perfectly okay for you to do that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But there was still a lingering sense of like anxiety of hiking alone. So for a while, I've been hiking much smaller hikes in Red Rock Canyon open space, Garden of the Gods, in populated areas.
Okay.
In case if anything happened. But I was itching to do a larger hike, a larger solo hike, because I miss those.
Right.
I love my friends and hiking friends, but it feels good to hike alone too. Just because that's what I've always done anyway. And so I had to go up to the Fort Collins area for family stuff this past weekend. And I just screw it. I'm going to do a big hike. So I did some research, and I gotta say we have it lucky here because most, if not all, of the open spaces and parks that I saw in the Fort Collins area, you have to pay to use them. Because I was seeing like, oh, there's this open space and that open space. I'll check these out, and then I looked them up and find out there's a $10 fee. Well, I have a state parks pass to keep Colorado wild with my registration of my car, and that's when I was like, I'm gonna see what state parks are around here, just to save a few bucks. And
sure. Well, you already paid for it, right? Why not use it, right?
Yep, exactly. And so I saw that there was a state park just west of Fort Collins and west on the western edge of Horsetooth Reservoir called Laurie State Park. And initially, I was going to do an easy loop, which would be called the East Valley and West Valley Loop. It's about 4-ish miles. But once I got to the end of the East Valley Trail, I saw signs pointing up to what's called Arthur's Rock and decided, it's time I do a bigger hike. Like one that's solo, one that goes more up into the mountains. So I decided to switch things up a little bit, and I went up to Arthur's Rock. Gorgeous views up there. Just incredible views. But it's also a bit of a workout because once you get out of the valley part of the state park, you're going straight up. There's a bunch of switchbacks. And then to get to the summit of Arthur's Rock, you have to go almost vertically up a series of steep rock steps. But you get this gorgeous view out east of Horsetooth. You can see Fort Collins, and it was the first day in a couple weeks, really, or a week and a half, where there wasn't a massive amount of wildfire haze from the Canadian wildfires. So I had amazing views. It was a gorgeous day. And then to complete the loop, I went down what's called the Timber Trail. And so I went down that with lots more switchbacks. And I'm really glad I did that loop in a clockwise fashion because I felt like if I did it counterclockwise, then the climb up Timber would have just been a slog. But it turned out to be about 8.5 miles total. And over 1,500 feet of elevation gain, and I was having a great time. I got that endorphin rush that I love, which is what I call a hiker's high, which I haven't felt that in a while. So it felt amazing. I felt really good. I felt confident about my ability to solo hike. And so now I'm itching to get back out there to do some big hikes again.
Awesome. Lord State Park is gorgeous. Like you said, it's on the west side of Horsetooth Reservoir, which is actually owned by the county, and then the state park's owned by the state. So I've done some hikes out there, and I did kind of the same one. I didn't start at the Arthur's Rock Trailhead. I started one at the very bottom of the park, the very south end of the park, and I went up there, and then I did it counterclockwise, but I did the Timber Trail. And then I picked up what they call the West Ridge Trail, so far in the West Ridge, and it's a long...
Okay, I remember seeing a sign for that.
Yeah, it's a long hike around there, and I did that one counterclockwise, and for some of the same reason you went clockwise. So basically where Kevin went from Arthur's Rock, you went up the Timber Trail, then you bared right and finished that loop, and I bared left. Yep. And if you're going left, counterclockwise is the best way to do it. If you're going to the right, the other side of that clockwise, if you stay on the Timber Trail clockwise, is definitely the better way because it is a long drop back down from there, and you would have to climb up if you did the other way. Laurie State Park is gorgeous.
I was very, very surprised. I'm not expecting it to be like, oh, this can be a boring park, but I just didn't know how much of a variety of landscape is out there. Yeah,
and the reservoirs there. Beautiful landscapes there. I shot some beautiful sunset pictures there.
Oh, I bet.
For a couple of summers, we would go to the KOA. That's just a few minutes down the road with our camper, and we'd camp there. And then it'd be a short drive over to the state park and do some hiking. Then we went up in the Poudre Valley and did some hiking up in there. There's been a number of fires since then, so I don't even know how much that's actually open right now. Well, there was a fire last couple of summers. There's been some fires up there, so a lot of that I'm sure is probably not great, but there's some nice hiking up in the national forest up in there too. So you're right, that area is gorgeous, but yeah, the counties up there treat things a little differently, and there are fees attached to a lot of different open spaces and stuff like that,
which I respect that because you have maintenance and upkeep and such. But I just was like, oh, wow, we are lucky in the Springs that all the open spaces and parks here are free to the public. And it seems like it's kind of a system that has been fought for, has been maintained, that it remains free.
Right. So next time you go up that way, there's the Devil's Backbone.
I drove by that. Yeah.
I did some hiking there. That's on 34 on the way into Rocky Mountain National Park, but it's on it's closer to Fort Collins. That is really a nice, actually closer to Loveland, I guess. That is a nice hike to do, but it is exposed. So in the summer, it is baking hot.
Oh, I bet.
There.
Yeah.
But that's a nice one to do there too. The Devil's Backbone open space, go through the keyhole and everything. So that's a lot of fun. I've done some of those up there. But you liked it. I mean, Laurie State Park was...
Yeah, and
beautiful place.
Oh, it's totally worth it because it's to down here in the Springs in this part of Colorado. I tend to go south on my hikes. It's less traffic. It's easier to get to stuff. So I decided to take advantage of being north of Denver because I'm rarely ever out there. I do want to change that because there's aside from Rocky Mountain, I really haven't explored much north of Denver, and I also forgot how much water is out there.
Yeah.
As you know, in the springs, water is very lacking. Just it's the way it is out here. So it was nice to be somewhere where it's very Midwest feeling, where the majority of the land is flat, like east of the mountains, obviously, and there's rivers and creeks and lakes everywhere. And speaking of lakes, the next day I decided to do more of a cool down hike. So I hiked along the shores, or I would call it urban hiking, it's instead of walking.
Yeah.
But I hiked along the shores of Boyd Lake State Park. Just wanted to take advantage of the state parks pass I have, and so I decided, like, I'm just gonna do something that's a bit more flat and chill. And it's a huge lake, so it was just nice to see that. And so I started first thing in the morning when the water was still very still and the sun was rising, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it must have been gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I'm glad you got to try that. The problem with going to Fort Collins is you have to go through Denver to get there.
Yeah.
the Denver. I don't care what they do at I-25 going up there. It just stinks. It's just getting through there. You could take E470 around and completely go all the way around it and come out, up further north. But that'll cost you about $20 in tolls and stuff like that. Which sometimes it's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with the traffic.
I almost did that on my way back home, because there was an accident north of Denver in the North Glen area. So traffic was just at a standstill. And so I was just like, should I do it? Should I do it? And it's like, but that's $20 and I don't have a job, so I'm just gonna wait on that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of the few. I think that and Pikes Peak are the only toll roads. actually in the state. So it's convenient, especially if you're going to the airport. It's definitely convenient to get on that and zip straight out there and stuff. Well, cool. I'm glad you tried that. I'm glad you went to Lori State Park. It's been a few years since we were up there, but we went up there with the camper a couple years in a row. The KOA there is gorgeous and really nice and fairly large, but really nice place. And that being close to that state park and going up the valley and stuff was really Poudre Canyon, not Poudre Valley. Poudre Canyon was really nice and just gorgeous up there.
It's beautiful.
Really, really nice. So I'm glad you got to do that, though. That sounds like you had a good time up there.
Yeah, and I do want to do a quick little shout out. My family and I did do a quick little trip to Estes Park. Mm-hmm. And I'm so used to going to Estes Park from the Springs, so it's like a 3+ hour drive. And so when my family suggested just casually getting lunch in Estes Park, my first thought was like, why are we going to go on such a long drive? But I forgot, like, we're in the area of Fort Collins. And it was nice to go to Estes Park when I'm not driving, so I can see, like, it's a beautiful drive, too. Right. But we went to Antonio's Pizza. It's New York style. You can tell the restaurant has not been updated in many, many years, which is not a bad thing. It's not a slam. Some of the best New York style pizza that I've ever had. It was fantastic. Although they had this gimmicky thing where they had 2 robot things that serve you a pizza on trays, and they work really well. But
robots?
It was just, it's more like trays or shelf, like robot looking shelving units put on top of a Roomba. I mean,
I've always wondered what I could do with that Roomba we have running around here. Besides the fact that it terrorizes the dogs, is maybe tell it go back, send it to the back room because I don't use it. My wife has a app on her phone and she could tell the thing where to go. Like, go back and send her a note.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, cool. So you had a good, obviously you're up there for some family issues.
Yeah.
You made the best of it and you got to do some hiking. And I'm glad you're getting back out there and you're feeling more comfortable hiking by yourself and stuff like that. It seems like this medical thing you had is probably going to be a one-time oddball, which I kind of thought.
Which is what my neurologist said. He says sometimes people just have a seizure once in their life, and it never comes back, and they don't know why.
Yeah, it could be any combination of chemicals and hydration and stress. And a couple things together, and your body just kind of like, short circuits and does something, and probably you're fine after that. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Here, things have gotten interesting because, as you saw when you got here today in the compound, is that we have a new addition to the family. We have another dog, and this is a 7-pound Yorkshire Terrier that we've named Rookie. My wife named it that. That was found on the streets by a friend of ours, and obviously had been cared for. And the vet thinks she's about 3 years old. And she was, our friend found her, and obviously you could tell that the dog had been cared for. Went to great lengths to try to find an owner for it. Posted on all the Facebook pages for missing dogs and found dogs. Went to the Humane Society. The dog didn't have a chip, so it couldn't be scanned for a chip or anything like that. Spent a while doing that, and she couldn't keep it, so we adopted little Rookie. And little Rookie is she's a Yorkshire Terrier, and I think the terrier part, as Kevin found out, I didn't know a dog that small can make so much noise.
Oh yeah.
She's adorable as all get out, and if you follow my Facebook, you've probably seen some pictures of her. She's cute as hell, but she's a handful. And the funny part is, we wanted to see if Cole would, accept her. Cole being, the only dog that's been in this house for 9 years. And Cole just ignores her. He just pretends she's not even there. He has nothing to do with her. It is weird. I thought he would be territorial. I thought he'd be, not happy.
Oh, yeah.
The only time he gets unhappy is she tries to eat his food. And then things get a little ugly. But other than that, he just ignores her. We bought her toys. He plays with the toys. He treats everything like it's his because he's the king of the castle here. But and for people who wonder, she's way too small to go on any hikes with me. She's all of about 7 pounds. 7 pounds soaking wet on a good day and with a full belly is about as much as she weighs. She does nice hikes around walks around the neighborhood, and she has her own little car carrier that she sits in, and Cole still gets the whole back seat. And she's gone camping with us. She's going on a camping trip with us, and she did really well with that.
Good.
So we have a new canine. What were we thinking? A new canine addition to the house. But if you've seen pictures of her, you won't see her on the trails with me. She's far too small. And no, in answer to other people who have suggested this, I am not getting a carrier for her so I can go hiking with her. She's not going to go in my backpack. I'm not going to carry her. She can stay home. She's going to be mama's girl for my wife, and Cole's going to be daddy's boy, and that's just...
Makes sense.
That's just fine. So we've got the little Rookie here at the house. So it's been an interesting dynamic adapting the two dogs. It's been easier than I thought.
Oh, good.
And Rookie's been to the vet, and she's had her shots, and we got a chip in her, and she's good to go. She's going to obedience training with my wife, which about time. We had to get her in there. It takes a while just to get everything, the process. And hopefully that'll say it's the same obedience training Cole went with. And if you've met Cole, questionable how well that went. If you catch him on a good day, he's completely great. And if you catch him on a bad day, he's a pain in the you-know-where. So we'll see how it works with, that's probably more my fault than anybody else's, but we'll see how that goes with Rookie. But she's already picking up on some things that we've just been doing that we learned with Cole, training her. So she's picking up on stuff. So I think she's going to be just fine. So Kevin, I've been just doing the normal hikes. I've taken a couple of trips. As people know, I went to North Carolina and shot a bunch of pictures of waterfalls, a little bit of hiking there. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be over on the western slope of Colorado in Montrose, spending a few days out there. Then at the end of the month, I'm going to be back in southern Pennsylvania for a wedding.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be there for a few days over Labor Day weekend, which I'm not sure why they're having a wedding on Labor Day weekend, but whatever, it's fine. So I'll get to go back there. So some trips coming up, and then I think in September we're going to do a camping trip someplace, Salida, I think. And then in October, going back to the western slope to do a little bit more. Hopefully, I have not captured the fall colors on the western slope in probably 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Just,
Okay.
I don't know why it happens. You think that I would be all over it, and I just can't get out there. But we are going out there in October, early October, to catch, the $1 Million Highway down 550 through Silverton and Ouray and down there. So I'm hoping for some really, really great stuff. But that should be happening. All that stuff is scheduled in the books, on the calendars. So it's going to happen. Once it gets on the calendar, pretty much it's going to happen unless something dramatic happens, which hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, that's going to be happening. My mom's been in town for a couple of weeks. She's leaving a day after you hear this. She's heading back to New Jersey, and it's been great. And Kevin's here on a good day because my mom is making, while we're recording this, right behind me, some of my mom's homemade pizza is being cooked, which Kevin's going to stay for and have some pizza. And
I'm very, very excited.
And trust me, this will, you'll never have Pizza Hut again. It'll be great. So a couple of quick things. Next Monday coming up, the first Monday in August is a free entry day to all Colorado state parks, because August 1st is Colorado Day, the day Colorado got accepted into the Union.
Okay.
And became a state. So what CPW does is the first Monday after that is they have a free entry day to all state parks. So if you don't have your Keep Colorado Wild Pass and you don't want to pay the $10 fee to go into a state park, this is the time to do it. Also in August is typically when they also let, it's kind of like a military appreciation month. So veterans, active duty military, retired, whether you have a pass or not, get in for free. You have to go to the visitor center and get a pass to do that. So you just can't drive through the gate other than on the first Monday. Yeah. So you have to go to the visitor center, get a pass, and present some kind of, your VA ID card or your active duty ID card or your retired ID card, whichever one you have, and you can get a free pass. So that also happens in October. So these things are all coming up this month. So if you want to go to a Colorado state park like Lowry State Park or Boyd Lake or Bar Lake, which is a little further to the west.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm sorry, to the east over by Brighton, which is where I go to get pictures of the bald eagles, which will be coming up this winter. They love to be up there. This is the time to do it. This first Monday in August is a good time to go and do that kind of stuff. Kevin, what else do you got planned? Do you got any plans for the fall or anything coming up, or what are you doing?
Well, I'm trying to come up with plans for Labor Day weekend, or at least around that weekend, just to avoid the crowds. Because last year I went camping at the sand dunes and hiked up outside of Crestone. It was a great way to spend the weekend. So I definitely want to do that, since Labor Day is like towards the end of summer. Like, it's not the end of summer, but it's the unofficial end of summer. So I'd like to go out with the bang. And for the rest of the year, I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Speaking of sand dunes, now that you mention it, and it'd been a long time since I've been there, but my mom had never been there.
Okay.
So her and I did a trip. We went down the Great Sand Dunes, and obviously Mom's not going to go hiking up the sand dunes, but I took her around, and Medano Creek was pretty dry. I mean, the creek bed was what I call like that sticky mud. It just is a firm surface.
Yeah.
But it wasn't muddy. You know what I mean? You didn't come out of there all muddy or anything. So I took Mom down there, and she just loved it. Like, here are these big towering sand dunes in the middle of the Rockies, at 8,000 feet. But this is an interesting loop that we did for people who haven't done this. From there, we started to come back to the east. And when you get to Fort Garland, which is on the west side of La Veta Pass, you go south there to the town of San Luis.
Oh, yeah.
The oldest town in Colorado. High above there's a church above the town on a bluff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so we drove up there, and it's a beautiful church, just gorgeous. And I shot a lot of pictures. Mom got to see that. So we did that, and then we came back up to Highway 160, went up over La Veta Pass, started up La Veta Pass, but we did the old La Veta Pass road.
Okay, I've seen signs for that one.
You definitely want to do it. Now, I would not do it with a towing a trail or a long RV. Definitely do not do it with that, because the east side of that is very tight, narrow turns. You're not going to be able to do it. But we just drove up there, and at the top there's an old ghost town up there called Up Top. and it's an old railroad depot where there used to be a train that the train went up and over the pass. So a lot of it's still private property. It's posted, but there's an old church there and the old depot that are there, and they're really pretty. And you can just drive up and over, drive up there and come down the other side. But like I said, the east side of that is definitely not for RVs. So if you drive up there from the west side with like a trailer or an RV, you can definitely do that to the top, but you'll have to go back down the west side.
Okay.
Definitely do not come up or try to go down the east side of Old Levita Pass with anything very long. It's extremely difficult. You can see why they made the new road, the paved road that goes over there. Anyway, we kind of did that. So Mom got to see a couple of different things she'd never seen before, even though she's been coming out here a lot in the 30 plus years that I've lived here. So we got to do some stuff. So, I guess my thing is when you're traveling around and you and I are like, and a lot of people listen to this, like, I'm going to go to this hiking trail, do this hiking trail, and then maybe stop someplace to eat and come home. Look at these other little places to go that are out there, and there's some really cool places. And I found about this old town just by one day going, what's up on Old Levita Pass Road? And drove up Old Levita Pass Road and found this. And
cool.
It was pretty neat. And this old church, and, sand dunes was fun to see, and Mom got to experience that. And, we both have national park passes for life, so it was like didn't cost us anything other than a little bit of time to drive out there. Like I said, she wasn't going to go hiking up the sand. It was funny because we were talking to people as they're coming down, and they have those. They're like surfboards, but they're for the sand dunes.
Yeah.
People were coming down and were like, was it worth it? Goes, the going up's a pain in the neck. But the 10 minutes of climbing up for the 2 minutes of coming down, not sure it was all worth it, but people were having a good time. And on a weekday, it wasn't very crowded. We went there on a weekday. Wasn't very crowded at all. Wasn't crowded at all. I shouldn't even say very crowded. Just wasn't crowded at all. Plenty of parking. Weekends, it gets pretty busy there. We did not go to Zapata Falls. It's a little bit of a walk to get back in there for Mom, so we didn't go back there. But, maybe next time, we'll do something like that. But it was a lot of fun. So, don't forget these little places that you see. Sometimes you see a roadside, a sign pointing to some town you'd never heard of, and it's 5 miles down the road. Sometimes it's worth just going down there and just seeing what's down the end of that road. What's over there to go take a look at. So anyway, but we did that with Mom here, and she just had a blast. So, and Mom's been on the podcast before. If you go back and look through the archives, there's a link to that on my website at hikingbob.com, and click on podcast. You scroll down, you see I did a podcast with Mom. Still one of the most popular podcasts. People just absolutely loved it. So you can check that out there. I don't know that we have a whole lot more. Like I said, this is kind of an unplanned bonus episode that we're doing today because I just didn't want to go 3 weeks without a podcast. But sometimes I'll tell you that's probably going to happen in August. There might be a number of weeks between podcasts because of scheduling and trips and stuff like that. But we will have 2 in August. We have 2 guests lined up, one of which is already recorded. The other one is scheduled. So we will have a couple of podcasts coming up. So we may not hear from Kevin till September, but we'll have Kevin back on here. Kevin, you have anything else you want to say to everybody, or anything else that I'm trying to think if I had anything else, but the big thing was Colorado Day next coming up. Oh, and if you want to climb up, so 2 things about Cheyenne Mountain State Park I want to bring up. Number one is in my latest column at the Independent, I wrote about 2 must-do summer hikes, and one of which is the Dixon Trail. Yep. And the other one is Fisher's Peak at Fisher's Peak State Park. That is going to open the day after this comes out. Trails, so let me explain. The trail is open. They have a trail all the way to the top, and I was able to get up to the top last fall. But a good chunk of that trail, the last 2 miles to the summit, is closed because peregrine falcons nest on the mountain. So what happens is from, I think, March till July, anyway, till the end of July, the upper 2 miles is closed, so you can't get to the summit. That opens up August 1st. So starting the day after you hear this, you can hike up to the summit of Fisher's Peak. Now, I will tell you, like the Dixon Trail, it is a long hike. Yeah. I think I clocked it, looking at it on Coatrex, about 15 miles round trip, and that is if you take the most direct route up there, because the Fisher's Peak, there's loop trails, and you and I have done some of those. That come off the main trail. So So up and back, straight route, most direct route, about 15 miles. And Fisher's Peak is open from sun up to sundown. So you're going to want to be there when the sun comes up so you can get out of there by the time the sun comes down. But it's worth doing. And then the other one is the Dixon Trail in Cheyenne Mountain State Park. That is also the reason why that is a must-do during the summer. Again, it's 14 and a half miles round trip. Kevin and I have done that, and I've done it a couple of times. All day. There's no backcountry camping, so you got to get up and get down in one shot.
That's right.
But coming up on August 17th is the Cheyenne Mountain Run, which is a race to the top of Cheyenne Mountain and back. But there's also a 5K and a 10K that are down the bottom part of the park. So you can sign up for those. Go to just Google Friends of Cheyenne Mountain State Park. There's a sign-up thing there. If you're interested in doing the Pikes Peak Marathon or Ascent, you typically have to qualify for that because that's a very strenuous one. The Dixon Trail, if you do the Cheyenne Mountain Run all the way to the top, that qualifies as a qualifying run for the Ascent and Marathon.
Oh, okay, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, and usually the Cheyenne Mountain Run traditionally has been done in the first weekend of October, but weather has always been kind of questionable, so we moved it back to August. Plus, there's always been some conflicts with something else going on, so they've moved it to August. And there's also going to be a foot race at Fisher's Peak State Park, where they'll have a race to the top and back. So these peaks are open. The Dixon Trail you can do all year round. But the other reason why I mentioned doing these in the summers, you need like daylight to be able to do them. You want to do them, and like Fisher's Peak closes at dusk, so you have to do it in daylight. Of course, the longest number of daylight hours is in the summer. And then the second part of that, of course, is weather. Both of these places get a lot of snow, especially near the top and along the trail. So obviously that's going to hamper your ability to get up there. So you want to do both of these in the summer months. You can take a bike up these trails, but not all the way to the top. So you can go so far. So if you're a cyclist and want to try these, again, it's very steep, a lot of uphill. It's got to take a lot out of you, but you can cycle up and then hike. Would theoretically speed up your time. Definitely speed up your time coming back and just glide back down. You cannot take a bike to the top of both of these. You can only go so far within a few miles, then you'll have to stop. Get off your bike and hike up the rest of the way. But if you're a cyclist, you can do them, and you have a little more leeway. I would say that you would probably want to get both of these in before the end of September, because by then weather starts to change.
Yeah.
And also daylight hours start to shrink. So look at doing both of these by the end of September. But it's a lot of fun. And my column at The Independent, every 2 weeks when The Independent comes out, it's in print and also will be online. I'll put a link to it. You can check that out at my newsletter. One last thing in my newsletter, this past one, and I'm not going to go over all of it, but I did I talked a lot about some incidents that have occurred, not necessarily in Colorado, but in other parts of the country where there's been a lot of high temperatures. Death Valley has had obscenely high temperatures. The Phoenix metro area, the valley has had really high temperatures. Heat advisories have been out. The land managers have been warning people not to go out there. People, unfortunately, have disregarded those rules, and people have died or have been seriously injured. Rescues had to be made. And I'll just sum it up real briefly, and you can read my newsletter. Go to the website. There's a link to it there. That I think that when you behave in such a manner, when you walk past all these multitude of signs, and I've been to these places, you've been to Death Valley. The last incident that occurred in Phoenix, I have hiked that exact trail these people were on, that they ended up having 65 firefighters had to rescue 13 people. I
saw that. That is wild.
Including a 12-month-old, an 18-month-old, and a 10-year-old. I think it's gotten to the point where, and Arizona does do this, but search and rescue teams around the country have to just consider that when you do something that blatantly dumb, and I'm not talking about people who just make honest mistakes. I'm not talking about people who get hurt because something happened. You and I have talked about this. Things can happen.
Yeah.
If you do something illegal, it comes a time when free search and rescue services shouldn't be free. And I'm getting a little bit of blowback from that. That's okay. I'll stand by my assertion that 99.999% of the people who need to be rescued are rescued because just stuff happens. They get hurt, they get injured, they get lost, something happens. But when you have people, there's a group of people decided that in the middle of July, it was a good time to take a motorcycle ride through Death Valley when it was 120 degrees.
Oh, man.
That did not go well. Somebody did not go home from that trip. Now, I don't know what makes people think that riding on a motorcycle with a hot engine between your legs with no shade and no air conditioning in the desert when it's 120 degrees was a good idea.
And I've been out there when it's that hot.
Yeah.
I was just outside of my car for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
And there was a breeze, but this was a burning breeze.
It's like putting a fan in your oven.
Yeah. And so I can imagine if you're on a motorcycle, you're not getting that wind that cools you off.
Yeah.
It's a hot wind. So come on.
Yeah. So I go into more detail in my newsletter. Let me know what you think. I'm sure some people are not happy with me, but I have a lot of people who are like, yeah, there comes a time when you have to draw a line. So in any case, all that is there. You can go to my website and find all that, and also check on my photography website. I need to add some new pictures. I'm working on a separate category in there just for my waterfall pictures.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple more waterfalls I want to see in the state. Some of those I think I'll see when I go to the Western Slope in a couple of weeks. So, but I'm going to put together just a category just for waterfalls because I've got a knack for taking pictures of those really well, and they look pretty cool. So. All that is there, and follow me on my social media, and you'll see pictures all the time.
Yep.
Same thing with Kevin. Kevin's always posting pictures. Kevin beats me to death with how he does the video stuff. I go on a hike, and I got a camera that shoots 4K video, and I've got a GoPro strapped to my chest, and that I rarely ever remember to turn on, and I can do high-def video with my cell phone, and I forget to shoot video most of the time. Kevin always does video, so check Kevin out for video. Where do they find you at, Kevin?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Wild Westendorf. On Instagram, I like to post stories also, so it's not just a regular post with pictures, but the stories are the ones I do videos. I like to talk about the trails. I like to talk about how I'm feeling, how I feel about the trails themselves, not just the technical details, but I'll be honest and say, I did this hike, I didn't really like it, or like this hike is amazing, you got to do it. And then there's my website, which is wildwestendorf.com.
Awesome. All right, Kevin, I think we've talked everybody's ears off here for a while. Thanks for everybody listening for the bonus episode. Kevin, glad to have you back here.
It feels great to be back, yeah.
And we'll get you back as often as we can. But, the plan we had was this to be twice a month and interview-based. I don't want to forget Kevin is here and provides a lot of good counterpoint to me and just some more information. So glad to have you back, Kevin. And with that, thank you for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast.
We'll talk to you later.
See ya.